Hello, welcome to Mid-Atlantic Weather Outlook. It's October 4th, and yes, we have a lot to talk about. Concerns galore. Before we get too far into what's going to happen on the East Coast with the hurricane that you guys are all probably very familiar with, let's look at what's happening right now. What we have a high pressure system up to the north, which is funneling in cool air. It was definitely cool this morning, but it's also got easterly component to that, which is bringing drizzle and rain off the ocean. At some places along the east coast here and also up in the mountains where it can squeeze it out. So look for that to continue, and every night for the next several nights we should see some fog and low hanging clouds in the mornings, and then it's burning off in the afternoon. Temperatures are pretty seasonable around the mid 70s, and that should persist throughout the week. The cooler nights with the moisture are helping your grass even grow more if it didn't from all the rain we got. I want to highlight this because I think it's a pretty good contrast to what I said was going to happen. If you were at all paying attention or have been following me, I've said it's going to be a dry summer, dry fall. And needless to say, we've had dry spells. And up in here in northwestern Virginia, we had a very dry spell. As a matter of fact, we got into a drought level where our precipitation amounts were below 3 inches. But if you were along the southeastern two-thirds of Virginia down into northeastern North Carolina, you don't know what I'm talking about because so much rain fell from the leftovers of Hermine to this crazy setup of the low-pressure system in fronts last weekend. You guys got slammed with a lot of rain. So needless to say, in the midst of what I thought would be dry, we had storms that were overwhelmingly saturated with moisture, so we had just tons and tons of rain. So you can look for the month, 20 plus inches in some of these places here in northeast North Carolina. But a pretty wet month all around for anyone in southeastern Virginia down into northeastern North Carolina. And also, you could spread that up northeastward and southwestward down into North Carolina, where it was very, very wet. So to just play out the next couple days, day 2, whoa, that jumped us into there. It's just Weather Prediction Center's site. Day 2, seeing the fronts advancing further off here, and I mean there's a play because this front here has something to do with the hurricane and how fast it comes in, and slowness and speed has everything to do with what's going on, as well as this high pressure system building in and the ridging off the east coast, ridging back towards the west. And so what's happening with Matthew as it comes up here is it's going to run into the ridging that's occurring out here in the front of this front, and it's going to move westward. How far westward is a good question, and that's what we'll talk about. And then you can see that they're starting to get worried about the flooding, the overrunning rains along this front, and just a coastal front in general occurs just because of this, and Hurricane Matthew, and what is it going to do? So let's talk about that. There are a lot of hurricane models that are out there. This isn't the hurricane models. This is the American model, which is called the GFS, and this is the ensembles run of the GFS. Ensembles are slight variations on a model run to get as many different kind of variables into the track. You're looking for consistency in track to find out kind of where things are going. As you can see here, definitely the east coast of Florida, up into Georgia, and then along the southeast coast looks like it's going to be scraped by this hurricane, if not have the hurricane come on shore. These loops are probably unlikely. Now this came a little further east. Overnight, this consensus was definitely for the west. It had impacts all the way up into Virginia. Even in this, with the combination of the front that I showed you kind of coming east with the squeeze of this moisture from the east off the ocean, we should see some good amount of rain in the same areas I've seen rain. And once you get up along the mountain range, maybe not as much. And this was my first real heads up, I think, from this forecast model track. A lot of consensus here that the southeast coast is going to be grazed or hit. This is showing things kind of consolidating into South Carolina. So the northern coast of South Carolina into the eastern part of North Carolina are really in line. And this is a hurricane models. I mean, these are specifically gearing on the hurricane. Just so you know, the European model that came in last night showed even a further western component here. But once it got up near North Carolina, it really shot it out to sea. In the European model, tends to be a good model to follow, so that's why I take it with some credence. And actually last year when Joaquin, if you remember that storm, was actually come into North Carolina based on hurricane models as well as the American model, the Europeans showed it out to sea and showed it way off the coast. It did rain prolifically, crazily, last year. If you remember, South Carolina getting deluged by Joaquin and its effects. So I'm worried about some of that. I mean, right along the coast here, more rains in areas that are just currently saturated, which would not be good. So really quick, what do I expect as far as moisture and problems? I would say anywhere from here down is probably my area of most concern. And if I was to really say my biggest concern, I would put it in this region, obviously. And you can extend this down into South Carolina. My question too here is, are we going to see some bay flooding? We probably will. And I mean, these areas are already getting some eastward components because of the high off New England. So some flooding's actually occurred up in these regions. Even leftover rain causing some flooding here along the Delmarva. So it's just not good that any more moisture would come up in here. But I would say this area is definitely the impact zone of the biggest concern. A direct hurricane over this area is really high on likelihood now. I think it may come on shore right here. It may not. I'd say as of now, the models show anywhere from just south of Myrtle Beach into the middle part of South Carolina up toward the Wilmington area is kind of like the impact zone where it could come on shore. So we'll see. There's even a possibility that it could swing a little bit into Florida. Florida is bracing. They've got a state of emergency out. North Carolina's got a state of emergency out. I don't know if South Carolina's declared it yet, but they probably will soon. I don't think Virginia will at this point in time unless things start to change on the track. I'll show the rainfall map, but I would definitely say anyone in this region here could see, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain. If you get down into the North Carolina region, in this area, we're talking 4 to 6, 7, 8, type of inches of rain. Possibility when you get down in South Carolina, they're calling for up to 10 to 12 inches along the coast areas. Areas, obviously, once you get past, this area in the west, would be far less, but I'd say anywhere along the Piedmont and eastward, or along the follow line and eastward, are going to see the most rain. Some models bring in even heavier rain. Last night, the GFS, so the American model, showed a heavy swath right here, and actually showed lighter rain here because it showed the hurricane possibly doing something like this. So the long and short of it is there's a lot to watch. It looks like rain will come to Virginia. It's going to hit Saturday, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, somewhere in that range, depending on where you're located. And if the storm really does come on shore, areas east of 95 could really see a lot, 3, 6, more possible. But right now I'm going to really target the coastal areas to say you're probably going to get the biggest impacts, both the surf and potential rain. In general, because the front's going to be coming in and coming through, 1 to 3 inches of rain is not uncommon. Because of the tropical nature, there could be some areas that get a little more. And so some areas could definitely have flooding issues again because of all the rain we had over the last week. Anyway, that is kind of the current thinking. New models will be coming out around noon. If something crazy shifts, I'll let you know. But right now, I don't foresee it being a major shift. We have a play of either it going offshore like this, or possibly slightly onshore. I would think that's as far west as we're going to see it. But if there happens to be interaction with that front that's coming from the west to Matthew, and there's a stronger tie in linking those together, then we're going to see a further west, piece, and we're going to have to start worrying about it further into Virginia. North Carolina, anything east, from the middle part and eastward is going to be problematic. South Carolina, same way. You just got to be on the alert down into Florida. Guys, if you're on the coast, make your plans now. Get your act together now. Start thinking about your evacuation routes and what you have to do. You don't want to mess around with a hurricane, and if we start to see a trend up into these regions, we need to start worrying about southeast Virginia and southward. Honestly, from this area here, I'd say you need to get your evacuation plans and know what you're going to do. All right, that's all for now.